Now, distributing out this content, if it is the most important part here, is one of the more confusing parts, at least at first blush. And that has everything to do with one of the decisions VMware made in surfacing some of this information through the different connected machines that you may have, the different connected vCenter servers that you may have in your environment. I mentioned earlier that we did have two servers here now, vCenter and vCenter 2. And if I flip back over here to vcenter2.company.pri, again, this is a separate vCenter server, separate platform services controller, but they are linked together. One of the things I'll show you is that here under content libraries, if we take a look, you'll actually see an example or reference here to the original content library that was created over on the other machine. That is a local content library with unpublished information. And so at least when you first look at this, it might seem like you would be able to actually access some of the content that exists in that library. However, it's kind of strange in which the way this works, because if I attempt to go up here to hosts and clusters and attempt to create a virtual machine here on this second vCenter server, one of the first things you'll notice here is that attempting to create a new virtual machine from the library doesn't actually provide me any VM templates. Because again, although it's available on this second machine, we haven't actually subscribed to that piece of content just yet. So just be cautious of that little idiosyncrasy as you go through initially distributing out this content to the various locations here in your environment. Before I connect up to that first location though, before I connect up to vCenter, I want to show you another example of one of the ways in which we can make use of these content libraries, not necessarily in a single environment, even though it's geographically distributed, but a single sort of data center environment, but also to content libraries that can exist perhaps out in the internet somewhere. These public content libraries can be connected to in much the same way that here in just a minute we'll connect up to our quote-unquote local library that exists here inside of the boundaries of our wide area network. So let me pop back over here under content libraries, and I want to show you here that there still is our content library. What I want to do is actually add in a reference to a public content library. So this would be a third-party public content library. In order to do that, you'll have to find the URL that someone has published and made available for that remote content library out on the internet. And in fact, I've actually located one here, which I cannot guarantee will be available whenever you're actually watching this a little later on, but it's one that I found that just some interested party has created a number of VM templates that I want to make available to everyone else out in the world to perhaps make the job of administration just a little easier. That library exists out on the internet, then I can access it here through this URL. So as you'll see here, the library actually exists in Amazon AWS. And so this URL here provides me access to the library. I don't believe there's authentication on it. I don't want to set any of the content to actually download automatically. We'll get it down whenever it's necessary. And so this gives me the abilities to then associate my environment here with that library that someone has published out there on the other side of the internet. In doing so, I need to create this connection and provide a data store for the storage of those assets once they're brought down. I'll put that here into an NFS data store that I configured here just for this vCenter server environment. I'll choose Next here and then Finish to actually go through the configuration of the connection here to this third-party public content library. You'll notice here that this public content library has just some different assets that exist within it. You'll see we have 7 different VM templates that exist here. These VM templates have to do with nested ESXi nodes. And so again, just this gives you an understanding of how exactly you could potentially add and subtract these different content libraries from your view here in the vSphere web client. In order to remove the existing connection here, I just right-click here and choose then to delete it. If I wanted to synchronize the contents of that library, so the actual assets in there, I could choose to synchronize the library settings here just to bring down whatever assets perhaps I've not brought down since my last synchronization.